Again, here we go with these guys that are currently relevant and not in their prime.
Yeah.
Todd can't beat him. Todd can't beat him. I emulate so many aspects of him, but he's not beating Artyom. Too much post top roll, too much hand, and potentially will contest him in a hook too.
Indeed, and I think you can kind of tell by the picture I chose here for him. I think this would have been a prime Cleve Dean, right? You see pictures of him. Hello. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you might be. Hope you're having a wonderful Monday this time. Supposed to be Sunday, but because of some technical snafus, we had to postpone a bit. But finally, I'm here with the wonderful Hollywood Matt Connolly from AWE fame, of course, giving us a double bicep flex. Awesome. Looking good, Matt. Looking bigger than ever. Yeah, I get it. You don't want to deprive the people of those biceps.
No, that's right.
Yep. Thank you for being here, Matt. Before we get started with the actual matches, I just want to check in with chat really quick if the audio is coming through fine. I'm using a new setup, so I hope everything is coming through fine, but I'm sure you guys will let me know. I will also quickly go over the rules of the Arm Wrestling Fantasy League. As you can see here, the rule set, all athletes are at their all-time prime. So imagine going back in a time machine, taking the athletes when they're at their very best, and forcing them to pull in our tournament. It's best of one, double elimination on the right arm. And we're using roughly the East versus West rule set and table, just to get an idea. Tournament fatigue matters, and what I mean by that is it won't be relevant this episode, but I think starting from the next one it will be. We're gonna treat people as if they've actually pulled their previous matches, and they might be tired from how close that match was in our previous live streams. And then finally, Levan is banned. All these rules were decided on by you guys, as will the outcome of each and every match here. So yeah, that's kind of in a nutshell how it's gonna go. I'm gonna switch over to the brackets real quick, where we're gonna take a look at the matches we're gonna go over today. I'm gonna do a hard 5-minute time limit per match, kind of to keep it within the hour. I'm aiming for an hour-long live stream here. So we've got Alexey Voevoda in the first match versus Todd Hutchings. Then we're gonna go to Denis Cyplenkov versus Artyom Morozov. Travis Bagent versus Vitaly Laletin, John Brzenk versus Rustam Babayev, Michael Todd versus Andrey Pushkar, and then Matt Mask versus Dave Chaffee, and finally Gary Goodridge versus Ermes Gasparini. And then last week, I say last week, but it's actually yesterday, we've done one match just among chat and I, which was Devon Larratt versus Cleve Dean, and Devon Larratt came out the victor there. So that's what's on the docket today. Without further ado, let's get into our first match of the night, which is Alexey Voevoda versus Todd Hutchings. Matt, what are your thoughts on this match?
Yeah, I mean, when you were saying before about greatest of all time in their absolute prime shape, I was trying to think, well, who would be the pinnacle? Immediately just went to pulling John and was thinking about the guys involved in that documentary, because I was thinking of John Brzenk. I mean, he's been at the top of the sport for such a long period of time, but he was never like that super heavyweight sort of guy. And I think that Voevoda, for me, in that film was just, absolutely unstoppable. So yeah, for me, with this one here, despite the fact that Todd Hutchings just seems to get better with age somehow,
Yeah.
I think that I've got to pick Voevoda just based on his form in that the documentary years.
Yeah. I can see that. I think with Voevoda, it's kind of, and I've used this footage because of that. I think the pulling John footage of Voevoda is so legendary at this point that a lot of people look at it like Voevoda was invincible during that time. And maybe to a degree that might have been true in the arm wrestling world. I think I would largely agree here, just because Voevoda's frame is bigger than Todd, and maybe at that peak he could beat Todd, although, like you said, Todd just gets better with age, so he might be stronger than he ever was, and I could definitely see him pulling off the upset here.
Yeah, absolutely. He's just got that tenacity that I don't know, as you said, I mean, it's like the older he gets, it's like the more conditioned his elbow is or something. It's just like the more that crazy style that he has, which is just drive sideways regardless as to what's going on with your hand.
Yeah.
You know, it just seems to improve. It's almost like each crazy war that he has just adds like strength to him for the next match.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. It's pretty crazy the opponents Todd has faced and actually overcome. In doing research in my recent John Brzenk videos, I'm like starting to get to the era where Todd Hutchings is just starting in the sport, like the early 2000s. And it's crazy to see a young Todd Hutchings, only 2 years into the sport, beating some of the top guys around at that time, just with seemingly just the exact same technique he's using today.
Unbelievable. Yeah, the guy is absolutely incredible. And for anybody who thinks that it's too late to get into arm wrestling, Todd is the perfect example of that. It's never too late. And I can't remember how old he said he was when he started, but it was either late 30s, early 40s, something like that.
Yeah.
And it was. And now look at him; he's one of the best in the world. It's absolutely incredible. Yeah,
it is. It is a crazy thing, and I think chat here is giving Todd his due credit so far with almost 50-50 here. I think Voevoda is leading by a little bit. Let's see what some people in chat are saying. I see Taran Broad in chat. Hello, Taran. Good to see you. Tomer, how you doing, man? Yeah, indeed. It's very late over there. Thank you, by the way, Matt, for doing this. Thank you. I know it's an ungodly hour there. Atlantis says, there we go. Okay, audio is all good. Niels Index Finger, how you doing, man? Good to see you. Jacob Styson, good to see you. Too much hand. Yeah, you're maybe talking about Voevoda having too much hand there. Tomer says Todd couldn't beat Prudnik when he was on gear. Voevoda stopped Michael Todd in a hook. Todd can't do that. Yeah, might be the case there. Imagine Toddzilla at 130 kilograms, says Bob Anderson. Yeah, I don't know if it would be that beneficial for him, to be honest. I think Todd is always, or has always been, a staunch believer of weight classes don't really matter a lot. So yeah, I don't know. I think Todd himself would say it wouldn't bring too much benefit to him. Let's see. Toddzilla is so much stronger than Voevoda ever was. And he says Niels Index Finger, he started at 35 years old. So yeah, there you go. Tomer says Voevoda was a top-level super heavyweight. Todd isn't. I think that's enough evidence to let Voevoda win. Toddzilla has been as much as 115 kilograms during WAL. Don't think he got much stronger though. Yeah, that's an interesting... When do you think Todd Hutchings' prime was, Matt? Or is it now?
Ooh. Yeah, I think maybe it's hitting that point right at this moment. He just seems to be right at that elite pointy end pinnacle of the top guys in the world, and he sort of will maybe lose two but then win one and then lose one and then win two, so he sort of floats a little bit up and back, but he's had some huge victories over some incredible opponents.
Yeah, certainly. I think that's fair to give him a chance in that. We're near the end of the first round with only 10 seconds to go, but we're at a stalemate here with a 50-50 to each athlete, so I'm gonna let the round run until a winner is crowned here. Just one more vote will decide the winner here. So if you haven't voted already, get your votes in. Of course, if this is gonna last another 5 minutes, I'm probably gonna call it anyways, and I'll just let the coin toss decide. I think or maybe let you decide, Matt. Put that pressure on you.
Oh, thanks a lot.
Yeah. But I have faith in chat that maybe we can get one more vote in here. Just go to the little chat window if you're watching on your phone, or there we go. Hutchings took the victory in the end with 54% of the votes coming in. Very close match, so we have to keep that in mind that for future rounds. That it was a close match, so both of these guys will be a little fatigued in the next round, I'm sure.
That's good bracket making right there when you've got a match that ends up being that close.
Yep. Funnily enough, the seeding of the tournament has been determined by the number of votes the athletes got to be voted into the league. So there you go. Okay, that match is over. Let's take a quick look at the brackets. And we can change them right here. But Hutchings took the victory. On to our next match, which is Denis Cyplenkov versus Artyom Morozov. Another very interesting one.
It is because I think Denis had more success, or could be say the argument for his left may be better than the argument for the right hand. Obviously, an incredibly strong and very accomplished right-handed arm wrestler as well. But I think that match where he just crushed Devon like 6-0, whatever it was, on left. I think that's more of his like pinnacle moment as opposed to anything that he really did on the right.
True. That's true. But the same can be said for Morozov, I think. In general, his left is stronger than his right, I do believe.
Yeah. It's tough. I mean, Morozov, it feels like he's still sort of rounding out his game. For me, it feels like he's still pushing forwards with all the technique side of everything, and he's so strong that everything that he's utilizing at this point in time is getting him these big wins or getting him in these big matches. But it feels like I think that he still can be refined a little bit further and I think his best days are ahead of him.
Yeah, for sure. I think Morozov has a ton of potential. Like, how old is the guy? He's not even 30 yet, right? He's like 26 or something crazy.
So insane. It's crazy. You think about these guys, because we talk about the legends of arm wrestling who are still pulling today. Guys level. I mean, Brzenk just retired, but you look at Ron Barth and guys like that. And when we talk, we instantly have this opinion that most of the top guys are going to be around that age group. And then you say, "Oh yeah, Morozov is 26," and you're like, "Huh?"
That is crazy. Yeah, it is crazy to think about. And there's a couple of those guys walking around that are just young prodigies. Their bodies look way older than they actually are, look way more mature than they actually are.
Well, it's like Irakli. I mean, he's only a young guy as well, and you think how he's in that top, what is it, 105 division? He's like second or third or something in the rank.
Indeed.
Insane. It
is insane. And it's funny because I think for the most part there's a couple of countries where you see these guys coming out, like Georgia and Kazakhstan, those kinds of countries. And I think I'm thinking of other young guys from like the West that are at the same level in the sport, and I'm having difficulties thinking of a lot of them, to be fair.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I mean, this is a tough round here. Cyplenkov and Morozov.
Not for chat, it seems.
Well, yeah, that's right. Everyone jumping on Cyplenkov there. For me, I don't think Morozov has hit his prime yet. I think he's still on the rise. So it's easier to sort of look at Cyplenkov and say, okay, we know where his peak was, and we know his best moments, and we think that at that point in time he would be better than Morozov's best form at this point. Yeah.
I think that's a good conclusion to walk away with from this match. Probably that Cyplenkov's peak is higher than Morozov's like current peak so far, but Morozov might have the potential to reach a higher peak. Who knows? Because he's still so young and already very impressive. So yeah, I do think it's closer than people give it credit for, maybe, because I don't know, there is something to be said for the average level of puller rising. We see that in when Denis recently performed. I know he's been through a rough time, but still, we see that when Denis recently performed and didn't do quite as well as he did in the past. So I think there's definitely something to be said for that too.
Yeah, well, completely. Yeah, that's right. I mean, arm wrestling is growing as a sport. You're getting more and more people involved in it. So you would think that the competition is getting tougher and tougher as each year goes on, as people learn and develop more techniques and styles and coaching methods and strategies and teams that can really bring somebody to the table that has like a professional sort of attitude and team working to get them the result, as opposed to maybe 20 years ago, 30 years ago, where it was like it's all on you to fly yourself there, to do all your training, to get here and there, and it may have been that at that point in time, it's very difficult to say, well, people from say 30 years ago would be as people are now. You'd think that sport and technique and strength and everything that comes with the sport of arm wrestling is going to have improved significantly over 30 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me, and that's also a point that I think people don't nearly consider enough. There's just been so many strides in like sports in general and like conditioning and stuff like that, and also just knowledge from like arm wrestling as far as arm wrestling techniques goes. I think people just know more moves now, know more what works on the table than they used to do. So yeah, it still seems like people voted for Denis here pretty convincingly. Took the victory over Morozov with 83% of the vote. So well done, Denis. I'll end the match here. Took a pretty easy victory. We'll make a note of that, and I'll take a look at the brackets. Over here, Denis, the victor. Congratulations. Denis will be moving on, and will either be facing Travis Bagent or Vitaly Laletin, depending on the victor of our next match. Vitaly Laletin versus Travis Bagent. I don't know about this one. This is another tough one for me, which kind of falls into the same category, because arguably both of these guys are better on the left, although Laletin you could say is kind of equal maybe. But yeah, I think this is in kind of the same as the previous match in that regard. What do you think, Matt?
Yeah, it is a tough match. You think prime Travis Bagent, you're thinking about his years as a dominant left-handed champion. Mm-hmm. It doesn't always go to the right arm accomplishments that he's had. His style is so unique in the way that he will go for that ideal setup. He gets that ideal setup. Off the go, it's just a huge hit, and he's either going to win or lose the match at that point. He either gets the pin or they catch it and then he just lets it go. Yep. It's like he either wins it or loses the match just off that very first hit that he does. And maybe that's his strategy, is I'm just going to give that hit absolutely everything I've got. If they catch it, I'm not going to waste my energy and time trying to work, trying to defend. I'm just going to let my arm get hit, which happens every time. But it is very unique to Travis Bagent that he does do that. So, and I think Laletin in his prime, I mean, he's such a technical wizard, and you have a look at the height that he can get with his long arms there. I think all he would have to really do is just get that stop. I don't think he even has to really worry about trying to win the overall match. No. I think just getting 4 stops would win you the match. I think that he could game plan well enough and set up well enough to just get a stop on Bagent, and I think that would be the end of it.
I agree. I think Travis has an outside chance here. If he's really quick off the go, like I know Prime Travis has that potential to beat some huge guys that are technically very proficient just by being faster and smarter in the setup. But I think Prime Vitaly, which might be today's Vitaly, has the edge over Travis in that regard. I think he, like you said, Travis, I haven't seen him make a lot of comebacks in a match. And I think if Vitaly manages to get the stop, exactly like you said, the match goes to him pretty clearly. Let's see what people in chat are saying about this match here. It's close as Niels' index finger. Travis at his prime could pin anyone. Jacob Tyson says Travis looked strong in 2016. Tomer as well says Travis in 2016. Oh damn, Travis was good. Yep, he sure was. It's very true. Left-handed, but he was considered number one on both hands for a short time. That's true too. At a certain point, Travis was considered the best arm wrestler in the world on both arms. Vitaly has never been considered number one yet, says Niels' index finger. Yeah, that's also a good point. Although has been very close for a long time, I would argue. Tomer says, Arm Historian, how many rounds in these matches? Only one round per match here, but it is a double elimination tournament. So do take that into consideration. Meanwhile, chat is completely divided. If you haven't voted already, make sure to go to the poll, tap the poll there, and vote for who you think would win this match in their prime. Tomer says, is the ref Bart? Because with WAF, and then he retracted his message. Okay, whatever that might have been, Tomer. Niels' index finger says, I went with Travis, but I think realistically Vitaly wins. Yeah, I can kind of get that. Maybe your heart is going with Travis, but your mind says Vitaly. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is a very close match, though, so far.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if that huge hit that Travis does possess. I mean, if he just gets the timing right, gets absolutely everything in his favor,
yeah,
good luck trying to stop it, you know? Especially with the tournament format where it's just one round. And so he would have only had... This is the opening round, isn't it? So
yep,
he's going to be coming in completely fresh.
True.
And he's just got that very, very explosive style. So, yeah, Laletin's really got to have to frame himself against that.
Yeah, that's very true. Spot. I wouldn't want Travis as my first round opponent. Really amped up in his prime.
That's a good point.
Yeah, might be something there. And I think chat is kind of going back and forth on this. I've seen it at 50-50 a lot, and then either one vote in favor of Travis or Vitaly. Right now, Travis is leading by a little bit, and I think we're nearing the end of the match with only about 20 seconds left. So, yeah.
Pulled ahead.
If Vitaly is going to do something, he's got to do it now. Tournament Travis was one of the best ever, says Niels' index finger. Gian says, hi, Vitaly stomps here. Hi, Gian. Jacob Tyson says, I think Travis can beat Vitaly, but not Denis, but I think Vitaly can do more to Denis. Well, the round is over, and Travis took it. It's at 50-50 now, but I saw it in favor of Travis at 5 minutes, so there you go. Travis did take it at the very last second there. So congratulations on winning that match. Very close match. I don't know if that means both guys would be tired, because like we said before, I can't really see that happening with Travis. But
no.
Yeah, we'll just treat it as kind of a flash pin there.
Yeah, I think you're right. If he's going to get the win, it's going to be a straight sideways pin. It's just, you know, what he does. The match isn't going to happen any other way. No,
I agree completely. So yeah, there we go. Let's go to the brackets really quickly. Travis Bagent, congratulations, Vitaly moving to the losers round straight from the go. So we'll be facing Artyom Morozov. on Sunday. Next up, we have John Brzenk versus Rustam Babayev. Let's pull these guys up to the table. Do you know a lot about Rustam Babayev, Matt?
Not that much. I mean, the guy, obviously, he's a phenomenal arm wrestler, and his name is just being pushed more and more. Probably about maybe 2 years ago when I started doing the show with Paul Italia, or whatever that was, and his name just really started appearing a lot, and a lot of people really saying, hey, this guy's somebody to look out for. So yeah, I still think he's an up and comer at this point. Like I think he's still establishing himself, and again, like similar with Morozov.
Not really, by the way. I'm gonna like interrupt a little bit. Like he's been around for a long time, Babayev, but he recently made a comeback. So in that regard, he is getting his footing again. But Babayev has been around since like early 2000s or something, I believe.
Right. Yes.
Yeah,
but in terms of his peak and potential.
Yeah. For sure.
It's and then obviously you've got the absolute legend of John Brzenk, greatest arm wrestler of all time. His stat sheet can just run for an entire book of the amount of titles that he's won, tournaments that he used to fly to each weekend, enter every division and win all of the divisions. Absolute monster in the world of arm wrestling, and I think it's very, very difficult to pick against John Brzenk.
Yeah, when do you think John's prime was, if you had to like give a rough estimate?
I'd say maybe 2 years before the Pulling John documentary, because I know that at that point in time he was dealing with some elbow issues, and I think before that he hadn't had surgery yet, so there was less sort of tournament footage and stuff of him at that point in time. But I think it's
around that time.
I think that he started with Pulling John. You could see that he was sort of questioning whether he was going to stay in the sport. And trying to find what was going to motivate him to stay in it. Saying, I've got these injuries in my elbow, and in the final match with Voevoda, you could see him before the match just really working that elbow, like, he's in pain. So those issues, I think, were prevalent in those years. But I think just prior to that, before they sort of made themselves known, is when he was at his absolute peak.
Yep, that's in my the third episode of my John Brzenk series, which is out, by the way. I kind of stopped there at the end of the episode. I stopped where John Brzenk is gonna face Voevoda around that time, and that is certainly one period people point to as John being really good at that time. And I think looking at a lot of, because there is some footage, if you dig really deep, you do find some footage of those days. John just looked really dominant. He was also kind of getting sick of the sport in other ways. Like, certainly true is his elbow and stuff, and other injuries weren't helping, but he was also like getting sick of not earning a lot anymore, because arm wrestling was kind of in a lull before Pulling John, and then kind of not having any competition. He would just dominate everyone. And then other people point to 2007, when he kind of made his comeback after Pulling John and stuff, and started pulling in the Nemerov Cup. That's where the footage that I'm showing right now is from. He got really big for that, really strong, and beat some guys that people didn't really expect. So there's a couple of periods you can point at, but I think those two are high up on the list. As far as Babayev goes, I think he pulled a lot with John. Just to give some context, he had a lot of matches in those PAL tournaments with John. And I think for the most part, I can't even think of a win Babayev got over John, maybe once. But I think for the most part, John, kind of figured Babayev out. And I do think Babayev probably was in his prime, then maybe a little later he got better. Tomer says John sweeps, right? Yeah, maybe. It's starting to look like it in chat, with 100% of votes going to John so far. Todd has never beaten Rustam. John and Rustam have had wars, but I do remember John figuring him out, says Niels Index Finger. Rustam has power, but John can flex on him, says Jacobs Tyson. That's true. Niels Index Finger says 2009 for John Prime, so yeah, that's a PAL era I was kind of referring to. Danky's Armorsling says, was it 2008? John who beat Denis? Yeah, it was around that same time when he beat Denis on the right hand. Tomer says, I think Engin says 2006 is his best. Yeah, like I said, like that period and then the early 2000s, a lot of people point to those two, I think. Alsim says, I mean, Brzenk did beat him. Yeah, that's true, but you don't know if Babayev was at his prime when they faced before. But this is the end of the match. 5 minutes have passed, and John Brzenk with the first sweep of the Fantasy League, taking 100% over Rustam Babayev. So, yeah, good on John. Well done. Take a look at the brackets. As to be expected, I think, yeah, was pretty predictable there. John, well done. Rustam Babayev will be going to the losers bracket, and John will be facing either Michael Todd or Andrey Pushkar in the next one. Michael Todd or Andrey Pushkar. Our first, unfortunately, deceased member of the Fantasy League. Rest in peace, Pushkar, of course, a legend of the sport. Wish we could see what he would have become, but I think he was already extremely impressive at his peak. And Michael Todd, of course, we all know and love Michael Todd. So, Matt, what do you think of this match?
No, we do love Michael Todd.
Yes, of course.
He's a great guy. Yeah, this is an interesting one. For me, Michael Todd, I think when he hit his prime, I think his prime came about because of his development of the King's move. And I think it was the WAL years where he was able to beat Devon and beat some of the top guys with that and utilizing that strategy. And it was sort of like, yeah, is this cheating? Isn't it cheating? What's going on? We had to maybe adjust some rules here because you know there's that question mark about, well, how are you supposed to pin the guy when his arm's completely straight?
Yeah.
So that made a lot of adjustments, which has, I think, since that point, negatively affected Michael's ability to pull it off as effectively. So if you're looking at when was Michael Todd's prime, I think in those certain conditions, like if he was on a WAL table with the long pads where he could really utilize that, and if it was prior to them implementing the humorous angle rule, or can't be pointed in any angle, it has to be either and the shoulder issue as well. So you can't have your shoulder beneath the height of the table if it's in the center or on the defending side. I'm trying to remember the rules off the top of my head.
I get you.
Yeah, so if it was prior to that, if it was in those maybe 12 months where Michael was able to utilize that maneuver, I think that helps him a lot in this match. I think outside of that, I've got Pushkar with his just absolutely insane strength and huge hits. Yeah. They just to give people some context, they have faced before. I know of one time for sure, and I think they exchanged rounds in a super match. It was very close. Like, I think Michael got pins on Pushkar and Pushkar got pins on Michael. They might have faced after that even. I think it's gonna be around 2012, something like that, in the PAL also. So they were very close. Let's just put it that way. Around that time they were very close. Now, you could argue Pushkar's prime was later, and Michael's prime was later too. I think that's very fair for both of them. Like you said, Michael probably in the right circumstances, like the WAL, would do very good. Like that prime Michael. And I think East versus West pads are actually just as
like long as WAL pads, but not as wide or something like that. Yeah, they added like a centimeter or something somewhere, or I don't know.
Because the standard ones are 7x7, and the WAL ones are 7x9. So
right,
I've got one of the tables. So it's 2 inches further.
Okay.
Of what is that, length?
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah, it's weird with like a perfect square. Yeah, I don't know. I think they lengthened them, right? East versus West, maybe not to the same degree as WAL. They don't look as big, at least.
I don't know. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I thought it was 7x7.
A couple tournaments ago, they did add an inch or like half an inch or something, I think. Maybe someone in chat can speak some more on that. Be sure to get your votes in, by the way, guys. The more votes we get, the more representative it will be of like what the people really think would happen here. Just tap on that little poll button and tap on your favorite puller to win, or click on it if you're using a desktop. Like you should. Tomer says Michael beats Andrey convincingly, I think. Andrey had a very tough time with Mike, but Mike is better now. Yeah, might be the case. Sadly, we'll never get to know the real quote-unquote prime of Pushkar, but yeah. Jacob says MMT seems to have done better. Tomer says Pushkar depends on his cup too much. Taran says MMT is definitely at his strongest now with his new training program. Yep, he's catching a lot of strays for that. But yeah, he's doing some crazy stuff over there in his dungeon. Tomer says Pushkar barely beat Mike at their vendetta. Mike is better now. Pushkar maybe would have beat him in 2018, but we will never know. Mike wins.
He just barely beat him.
Yeah. It was very close.
It's not really the best argument.
No, that's true. Niels Index Finger says, I believe Pushkar was stronger with a style that was better to watch, but MMT would have stopped him and tired him out.
This is opening round of the tournament, remember that. That's
so true. So true, yeah. Pushkar still has a lot of power, super explosive puller.
Just gets the right setup. Blam!
Yeah, that's so true. That's so true. Yeah, a lot would depend on if Michael would be able to get any traction at all, and then I think it might be a little bit of a close match, although probably the edge would go to Michael at that point, but whether or not he would be able to stop Pushkar, I can't say for sure.
What rule set are these matches running?
East vs West rule sets, roughly.
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah, the match has ended. We're over 5 minutes with Michael Todd taking the victory. 64% of you thinking he would win. So there you go. Pushkar going to the losers bracket and Michael Todd moving on. Take a look at those brackets. Michael Todd, well done. Beating Pushkar here. Pushkar will be facing Babayev in the losers round 1. We're moving on to our almost last match. We have 2 more to go with Matt Mask and Dave Chaffee. 2 guys who are still very much active, although I would like to see both of them pull more even, because I like both of these guys. Let's see here. There we go. Matt Mask versus Dave Chaffee. When was Matt Mask's prime? I don't know, actually. Is it now?
It may be. He seems to have... Well, he had maybe the last couple of years he's been on a little bit of a journeyman. You know, maybe losing some matches that were really those key moments that if he had won that, he would have been pushed right up to the elite level.
Yep.
And then sort of bumping down, but then he would win a couple, lose a couple, but recently he's had some very, very impressive wins, and he may be on the upwards trajectory. I mean, we may be seeing prime Matt Mask right now.
Yeah, very true, and that's an exciting thing, I think. Matt always... I'm always really excited to see Matt on the table at any capacity, and I think a focused Matt in the 115 kilogram category can do some real damage, as we saw with Babayev. Babayev, one of the people who just barely didn't make the cut into the fantasy league. I think 1 or 2 votes short only. So yeah, Matt Mass definitely one of the more popular ones. I believe he came in at seat number 5 or something like that. So yeah, the 5th most popular person.
It's easier to spell Matt Mask than Ongabayev.
Very, very true. I'm sure that played a big part in that.
You're like Onga, Matt Mask.
Very true. I'll just vote for him. I tried to make it as easy as possible for people. I just put pictures on there, like 105 pictures or something of arm wrestlers, just to convince people to actually vote. I think it paid off. Dave Chaffee, on the other hand, real powerhouse, especially in his prime. I'm very curious as to what people think is Dave Chaffee's prime, because I think a lot of people won't say it's now.
No, I'd agree with that. I know he's been dealing with injuries for the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that he said in an interview, which really stood out to me, was that before one of his super matches, it was maybe a week before, he was still at home, and he was sitting on the couch, and his son was sitting next to him, and he went to reach to get something, and he was like
damn.
And his son says, like, how much longer are you going to keep doing this to yourself?
That's crazy.
I don't know. So obviously having some serious issues with injury, and with age and all those other factors working against him, I think that his best days would be behind him, although he is still a very formidable force on the arm wrestling table.
Yeah, very true. I think a lot of people look at Dave Chaffee right now as kind of the gatekeeper of the super heavyweight elites in a way, and that makes sense where he's at right now. But I think prime Chaffee, in my opinion, would be somewhere around, and I saw someone refer to it in chat, around the time he beat Denis Cyplenkov on the right, back when Denis was really good too. Which was around 2012 or something like that, I think, or maybe, I think around the time they were filming Game of Arms. So I think like the Game of Arms Dave Chaffee is probably very close to a prime Dave Chaffee, in my opinion, at least.
Al Zems in the comments agrees with you. He says Game of Arms Chaffee.
There you go. Yeah, okay. Yep. When he pinned Denis, Game of Arms Chaffee. Fazekas Alex says before 2018 when he injured the neck, so probably 2012, 2018. So yeah, that would fall in that same time frame there. Niels Indexfinger says he has won 3 out of his last 10 matches. Yeah, those are rough stats when you look at them like that. That's very true. Tomer says, I think Dave's prime was 2017 when he was pinning Gennady easily. In 2014, he was relatively new to the sport, and in 2015, he was flashed by Pushkar. But 2017 is not way better than 2014. Yeah, I can see that. Dave would still win now, says Jacob Tyson. Yeah, I think so too. Probably.
Yeah.
Might be closer this time, but yeah, probably. I'm wondering, did this guy ever face in the WL? I'm having a hard time thinking of an actual match, but also it seems like they would have, right? At some point.
Yeah.
I'll maybe look it up.
Cool, actually seeing a match between the two of them.
Yeah, me neither.
They were both. Yeah. But I mean, my pick for the winner of this round is Dave Chaffee. He's just too strong, too powerful for Matt Mask. Matt Mask, I think, is in this competition more as name recognition, and because people are big fans of his, as opposed to him being potentially the greatest arm wrestler of all time.
Yeah, that's very, very fair. I think I agree there. And yeah, people in chat seem to agree too, because after 5 minutes, Dave Chaffee took the match very comfortably here with 76% of the vote. So yeah, 3/4 of you guys say Dave Chaffee would have won in their prime. Well done, Dave Chaffee. moving on, let's take a look at the brackets here. And then our last match after, but first, Dave Chaffee won, which means Matt Mask will be facing either Ermes Gasparini or Gary Goodridge in the losers round, which is our first match here. Gary Goodridge versus Ermes Gasparini. Gary Goodridge no longer in the sport, really. Love to see him pull, but yeah, unfortunately no longer in the sport. Also, these guys never met on the table, obviously. I think Gary Goodridge quit the sport at around 1996 or 7, something like that. Is when he stepped away from the sport to pursue MMA, I think, or maybe he was already doing that by that point. And then Ermes, of course, still active and quite possibly the number 3, 4 puller, something like that. What do you think of this match, Matt?
Yeah, I agree. I'd probably say he's without doubt within that top 4. He's absolutely enormously strong. He's had a war. He's probably the only guy to take rounds off of Levan. I know that it was 4-0 Levan and he couldn't continue. They awarded the remaining 2 rounds to Ermes, but it was Levan's inability to be able to continue because of the insane stops that Ermes was making him work through and the restarts, and he was pushing the number 1 guy, who I think is banned for this competition because everyone knows that he's just going to be the winner.
Yep.
And Ermes took him to the absolute limit. And Gary Goodridge, for me, like I don't know much about his arm wrestling side of things. I know him from MMA, and then I heard that he was a very good arm wrestler, but I really am not familiar with his story in arm wrestling. Yeah,
Gary Goodridge started a lot earlier than a lot of people think, because there's not a lot of footage available from him, but he did start at, as far as I can tell, the mid-80s, and then really quickly got very strong in arm wrestling, and by like the time the mid-90s, even the early 90s rolled around, he was kind of the number 1, exchanging the number 1 title a lot with John Brzenk and Cleve Dean. Also Richard Lupkes was around during certain periods there where he kind of was vying for the number 1 position. So Gary Goodridge definitely in talks for the number 1 around that time, and then by the mid-90s was he was beating John by that time, and John was really strong. He was at a certain point, Gary Goodridge beat John at the Yukon Jack in the heavyweight category, a tournament John had been dominating for quite a while, and then John dropped out of the heavyweight division for a couple years just because he didn't want to face Gary Goodridge anymore. Until Gary Goodridge stopped, walked out of the sport in 97, and then John went back to the heavyweight division. So, yeah. I think Gary, a lot of people will underestimate how good Gary was, just because he quit the sport at a time where matches were becoming more and more available to watch. But yeah, I think still I would give the edge to Ermes probably, and it seems Chad is agreeing here.
Yeah, I think as we were talking about earlier, when you look back at athletes from 30, 40 years ago, and you're comparing them against guys that are right now, it's so difficult to say that somebody from that era would really be as competitive as the people today. The sports just continue to evolve. Athletes get better, stronger, faster. Better strategies are implemented, techniques are discovered. Everything progresses. As you've got 40 years of progression, and that's where Ermes is sitting in the top 4 in the world currently. And then you're looking, okay, well, we've got Gary Goodridge, who, I don't know, was it 30 plus years ago? When was Goodridge sort of sitting at that?
I think 20 years ago would be
20 years ago.
No, sorry, 30 years ago. Yeah, 30 years ago would be fair.
It's 30 years
95
of time. that has elapsed since then, it's very difficult to say that Goodridge would be competitive with the guys today.
Yeah, I agree there. I think, I agree 100%. I think Ermes would just dominate Goodridge on conditioning and just knowledge also of the sport. Again, like a deeper move pool than Gary Goodridge had. Gary Goodridge was extremely strong for the time. A pretty versatile arm wrestler for the strength he had. But Ermes would, I believe, still dominate him. Let's see what people in chat are saying before the match ends here. Only 1 minute left in the match, so get your votes in. Let's see. Tomer says, how would Ermes lose this? Just how? Fatzekas Alex says, Goodridge was Brzenk level, impossible against the current Ermes. As good as John was, the times where 95 kilogram guys beat supers is over. Yeah, it does look to be that way indeed. Ermes is too technical, just as strong, says Alsims. Yeah, might be even stronger, but yeah, I can see that. Tomer says Ermes is way more technical and way stronger. Alex agrees with Matt here, says a completely different level today. Indeed, and I think that's kind of a running theme for the Fantasy League in a way. There's a couple of exceptions, but I think for the most part, we'll see that with almost every match we cover here, that people, rightly so, I think, estimate current pullers at a higher level than old pullers just because of the talent pool and the evolution of the sport. That's the end of the last match here. Ermes taking the win. We'll quickly go to the brackets and see what that means for next live stream. Ermes, well done. Gary Goodridge moving on to the losers round. Sounds so harsh, the losers round.
The B-side.
Yeah, indeed, the B-side. That's way better, man. In the B-side,
people who did win.
Yeah, I'll just put it that way. In the B-side, on Sunday, we'll have Cleve Dean versus Alexey Voevoda, Artyom Morozov versus Vitaly Laletin, Rustam Babayev versus Andrey Pushkar, Matt Mask versus Gary Goodridge, and then in the winners bracket, we have Devin Larratt versus Todd Hutchings, Denis Cyplenkov versus Travis Bagent, John Brzenk versus Michael Todd, and Dave Chaffee versus Ermes Gasparini. But that about does it for today. Thanks everyone for being here, for voting, for participating in the discussion. I greatly enjoyed it. Matt, thank you so much, man. I know it's super late. I'm very glad it worked out. And of course, thank you for that biceps. Thank you for gracing us with that biceps, the dancing biceps of Matt. Thanks, man. Thanks for being here, really. I hope you enjoyed it.
That was fun. Yeah, it was great fun. Thanks. You're doing great things for the sport of arm wrestling, and really appreciate being able to get on here and chat with you. Of course.
If there's anything you want to plug, I know you do a podcast, which is like a very frequent podcast. You guys should definitely check that out. It's almost every day. Sometimes you skip a couple of days or a day or something, but it's like a very frequent podcast. Definitely check that out. If there's anything else you want to plug, AWE perhaps. I don't know if there's anything in the works for that in the future, in the near future.
We do. We've got a big match upcoming June 22nd, and it's going to be as part of the Diamondback Fighting Championship. We're going to be inside the Octagon. We're putting on a super match between Brett Coots and Matei Warengi Hetamoros.
Oh, damn.
Which is a right-handed match for the Intercontinental Belt.
Damn, that's quite a match too. I'm really looking forward to that one. Damn.
Oh,
okay, yeah. I love Matei Warengi. I briefly met him at Arm Gods. Seems like a really nice guy, and I'd love to see those two guys pull. Yeah, gonna be awesome.
Yeah. It will be fun, absolutely. And you can see it on the AWE YouTube channel.
Awesome. Okay, definitely check that out, guys. Before I leave, a quick thank you to Our couple remaining members here, there's been a little bit of an exodus in the last months, but that's totally fine. Big shout out to all the members still hanging in there. Niels Indexfinger, Craig H, Lawless Luchadors, Chuck, Pipeworker, Spermies, and Muscle Bike. Thank you so much, guys. For
you should leave the people who left, like, leave their name up and then just put a line through it.
That's actually a good idea. I'll keep it in mind for next time. Yeah. I'll keep it in mind.
They'll never want to leave because they'll be on the screen every time. And they're like, no, everyone knows that I left.
Yeah, and then in a year or so, I'll have a list of like 100 names with 99% crossed out. That'll work wonders. Matt, thank you so much, man. I greatly appreciate it, and I'll talk to you soon. Chat, same to you guys. Thank you for hanging out with us and participating, and hope to see you on Sunday. We will have another very special guest. Keep your eyes peeled on my social media accounts to see who that will be. And until then, bye-bye, guys.